666.
To our main segment, which is sort of going to be a conversation with Amr and Richard. When speaking, with a true Renaissance man, it's best not to be tied down to just one topic. So we're going to sort of break this segment down into two main parts, starting first with international relations, and then we'd like to talk a little bit more about the Saudi economy, Vision 2030, and a handful of sectors in the kingdom, as well as Amr's business interests. So let's start with global affairs here. Amr has been working with the Saudi Committee for International Trade, CIT. He was appointed by the late King Abdullah as the chief coordinator for the Saudi Outreach Program. Amr, I think a great place to start here is to talk a little bit about how Saudi foreign policy has evolved since the rise of King Salman and how the kingdom's position and influence in global affairs has grown.
I can start with 9/11. That was a very sad day for all of us. And it's unfortunate that lives were lost. The perpetrators of that hideous crime had an intention of driving a wedge between our two countries, Saudi Arabia and the United States. And really, they were a bunch of misfits who do not represent Saudi Arabia and do not represent our people in any way or form. They hijacked our nationality, they hijacked our religion, and tarnished it beyond imagination. I think at that time, the whole population of Saudi Arabia rallied behind their king and basically volunteered to do whatever they can to do it. I didn't do anything on my own. Committee of International Trade had more than 80 men and women from Saudi Arabia, from all kinds of fabrics of the society, from teachers to religious scholars to businessmen, businesswomen, doctors, all kinds of professions, educators, from the academia, from the media, and so forth. And we actually, I think after 9/11, myself and also Mr. Abdullah Zainal, who was the chairman of at the time it was called Council of the Saudi Chambers of Commerce and Industry, and Mr. Dr. Majid Al-Ghasabi, who was at the time Secretary General of the Jeddah Chamber of Commerce. Today, he's the Minister of Commerce in Saudi Arabia. And basically, the three of us went to Washington, D.C. 3 months after 9/11. And we met with everybody. I know Richard knows me, and I'm very blunt and transparent. I speak my mind. We have a saying in Arabic. We say that my heart is at the tip of my tongue. So I speak what's in my mind. I remember we met with an official at the State Department, and he said, "Don't ever dream that the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States will be the same." And I immediately retorted to him. I said, "No, I don't want it to be the same. I want it to be better." The relationship was based on economic interests in the past. Today, it has to be based on mutual respect and a true partnership, a true strategic partnership. Saudi Arabia can play a major role in the Middle East. It's a leader in the Middle East and can be of great help to really partner with the United States, as well as we as Saudi Arabia will benefit from our partnership with the United States. But it has to be strategic. And then from there, I went to New York. I met with New York Partnership. Various people have visited Ground Zero. And just on a personal level, my son was studying at Columbia at the time, and he lived in Tribeca. Literally, he saw the second plane crash into the building from his bedroom window. And then he disappeared, and for 3 or 4 hours, his mother and I died and lived a few times, worried sick about him. Thank God he survived that, and he graduated, made us proud. So the relationship, I mean, when we think of foreign policy of Saudi Arabia is a sovereign country. And we have our own identity, we have our own culture, we have our own religion, and we'd love to have great relationships with all over the world. But it has to be on a mutual respect basis. And it has to be based on really strategic partnership. So today we have a strategic partnership with the United States, but we also have strategic partnership with China, with India, with Japan, with many other countries around the world, as it should be. We are part of this globe, and we know that there could be some difficult political differences between countries, and even between us and other countries, but that should not prevent us from coexisting peacefully and try to respect each other and make sure that right people are not deprived of their human rights and abilities to live peacefully and to be able to look after their families and children, and make sure that their children are fed and educated at school, and live a safe life rather than be subjected to terror or any of that sort of thing. So there could be a lot of collaborations politically. There could be a lot of collaborations economically. And today, the more that the United States builds that political strengthen that political relationship with Saudi Arabia, obviously, economically, it will benefit. Jobs will be created in the United States. American companies would get opportunities to come and invest and benefit from their investments in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a fertile country, as we have been talking recently. So that's, and I think today, King Salman is making really his mark on where Saudi Arabia wants to be. And it's all for the benefit of the people of Saudi Arabia, primarily, and making sure that they have a decent life, and at the same time, internationally, to make Saudi Arabia be an actor, an international actor, on the international field and stage, where we can push for the right kind of policies that we believe in, through dialogue, through these strategic partnerships. I don't know if I got carried away here.
No. Two questions, actually two observations, and I'd love your feedback. Looking to the past, that post-9/11 period was so difficult, and I worked closely with CIT, and I got to know so many of your compatriots, Amr, true, and I call them patriots, Saudis who were just genuinely pained by this, and especially hurt by how vilified Saudi Arabia was at the time, and for an extended period of time. Especially, these are Saudis who have a tremendous affinity for the United States. They live there, they work there, they study there, they're sending their kids there, and so it's very hard to feel that it was intense and negative and very difficult period. So I know that was painful, but let's come to the modern day. And look at the relationship, and this is one of my frustrations. We look at the relationship, and it's built on significant common interests. There's security common interests. There's energy common interests. It's important to have a relationship with Saudi Arabia because it has such an influential role in the Muslim world. Any number of reasons for counterterrorism. The number of points where the U.S. and Saudi Arabia intersect and mutually benefit are just many and varied. I really like, for us, in terms of the U.S., our approach to Saudi Arabia, to move beyond that and find ways to get more involved, invest in, support what's going on in Saudi Arabia. This tremendous effort to diversify economically, these goals to deal with the global energy conversion, this impetus, as you noted earlier, to move from oil to energy. And the social reform is extraordinary. So what I'm saying, and you can comment on this, maybe there's no comment to be made, I'd really like for us to expand our understanding of how we can be involved in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't have to be arms. It doesn't have to be managing the oil market. We can move beyond that. I'd like to see us move beyond that. I'm not seeing it at the moment.
I think that you don't only have one ambassador in Saudi Arabia. You have thousands of ambassadors in Saudi Arabia. People like me. I went to Menlo College in California and graduated from Yale University in 1979. That's 42 years ago, and 43 years ago. And we believe in America. We believe in the American system. We believe in the play fair attitude. Unfortunately, there have been times when you weren't playing fair. Okay, to be honest, and I think you need to rethink about that. If America want to be a player in the global world and be a leader, you have to play fair and you have to be transparent about it. Saudi Arabia is a young country. I'm approaching my 70th birthday next October, just for your information. And I have lived through all the kings of Saudi. King Abdulaziz, the founder of Saudi Arabia, died in 1953 when I was 1 year old. So technically speaking, I lived 1 year in his reign. So I lived through all the things. But that gives you a physical vision of how young Saudi Arabia is. Trust me, I feel very young, and I am young at heart. So we, in the last 70 years, we have been developing. We've been on a learning curve. We've been developing the country, and really the country has come together now to be a formidable force and a country to be reckoned with. With tremendous opportunities. It's not just a wealthy country, it's a country where you can build wealth. And you can come and invest in this country and participate in that wealth. So the opportunities are there for people to come and invest here. The opportunities are there for people to come and live here. Richard, you remember we had young students, American students, come and visit. We can do that again. We've had political people, and we are constantly receiving people from Europe, but less so from America. And I think this is, if you are asking the question, how can we do better? I think this is what we need to do. We need to really develop more people-to-people initiatives, exchange students. I sit on the board of Effort University, which is an all-girls school, but they just received permission to accept boys, so it's going to be co-ed.
That ruins everything.
I think the first few boys that join the school are going to be extremely overwhelmed. But I sit on the board of advisors, and we have exchange programs with American universities, and it's great. Students from us go to American universities. Students from America, they come here. And as you know, Richard, for the first 7 years after 9/11, I used to come on 9/11 every year, go to an American university and talk with students about Saudi Arabia, about Islam, about Arab culture, and so forth. And we recognize that we have so much in common between our people, and yet we do have some differences. And so we all agreed, let's build on what we have in common and respect the differences. And that's really the successful formula for a successful partnership between our two countries.
Agreed. Please give my regards to Haifa Jamalaleah when you see her. She's done a remarkable job with Efat. I'm sure with the help of people like yourself. I think that touches on it, and I think that's one of the. I want to refer to the Committee for International Trade. I think there is no, and actually, part of what we're trying to do with the 966, there's simply no substitute for Saudis talking about Saudi Arabia and talking about, their country, talking about Saudi Arabia and also relations with the U.S. and elsewhere. And that's, the 966 increasingly will be trying to create a platform for these discussions. CIT over the decades, I mean, this was founded in the 80s, has always done this person to person, and there's no better representative. I remember when we do delegations, Amr, and we go someplace out in the hinterlands and maybe seeing a World Affairs Council or some civil society organization, and some of the women that were on those delegations, and these are private sector men and women, really, really top flight professionals. I would never forewarn the hosts and say, well, you're going to hear this, you're going to hear that, because they were such tremendous representatives for themselves and for the country that people would just go, oh my goodness, I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know that you can have these conversations. I didn't know these people, all these things, eye-opening things that you get when you meet someone in person or you meet somebody virtually, and so on and so forth. So the work you've done over the years, Amr, and that's why I say, you've done it because you're a patriot. I just want to add, last episode was it, Lucian, I was making the point that Ibn Saud, King Abdulaziz, died in 1953. Eisenhower was president. This is how recent Saudi Arabia is. Just trying to put it in context for Americans who always seem, there's always the instinct to think that countries are fully formed and they all agree with us. Well, they don't, and they're younger and they're on their own path. And that's part of the journey of respect and understanding that we want to help out.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I was born in Abha, and as a child, women were not covered. They worked in the fields wearing their sombrero hats, and they actually engaged in politics discussions with the men. They were mixing, Of course, that changed, when there was some movement away from moderate Islam, as our Crown Prince said a few years ago, that really we need to go back to moderate Islam and really adhere to Islam the right way. And I think this is where the changes have come recently. So yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting discussion and a very interesting debate to have. But at the end of it is that we're human beings. We have to carry on with our lives, to improve our lives, build our families, build our businesses, and so on, and in the process participate in our. So, for example, I was, somebody said to me, you allowed women to drive in Saudi Arabia because the Americans forced you to do. I said, no. The reason that women were allowed to drive is because of an economic reason. You have a woman who is, and when we went in those delegations, Richard, all of the years, whenever anybody asked me, I would turn to the ladies in our group to answer the questions. And they all answered the same thing. They said, driving is not our priority. Getting jobs, we want to get jobs, we want to be able to work, and that is what is our priority is. Getting a job and having to spend a third of your salary to pay a driver or inconvenience your father or your brother or your husband or your son to drive you became an economic burden. So by allowing women to drive, you remove that economic burden, and so they can drive to work, they can drive to school. As a result, a large number of foreign drivers have left the country since women were allowed to drive. And so we have to look at it pragmatically and not make up stories. Right?
Yeah, obviously, absolutely. That was an economic imperative. You can't have half your population, with these extraordinary obstacles just to get to work. I mean, even if you were a teacher, a female teacher somewhere, you'd have to wait, for a van to come pick up. So it'd take you an hour to get to work, and it was a real problem. Absolutely economic imperative. And I think you referenced, Amr, something I think is unseen and not sufficiently appreciated, and that is the swing back. And what you were referencing was the swing to the conservative, the right after 1979, and to its type of Islam that you didn't grow up with, a different type of Islam, and the efforts now with King Salman and the Crown Prince to move it back to the moderate Islam, and to sort of undo some of that severe move to the right, and how important this is to have that message coming out of Saudi Arabia, because it's so influential that we need to be more moderate, we need to be more inclusive, and that's the type of Islam that we are trying to espouse and we're trying to live by. And like you say, this is what you grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, Islam is a great religion. It's a code for how to live your life, how to coexist with your fellow human being, how to be respectful to your neighbors, how do you bring up your children. It's a how to live. The Quran is an how to live book. Unfortunately, during the let's call it the foggy period, the Quran was not interpreted correctly. There were a lot of contradictory fatwas and contradictory remarks and so forth. And this has been put to bed. And today, the true Islam, the moderate Islam, is what is being promoted in Saudi Arabia, and has made life a lot easier for people.